Welcome to the Cool Tools Show. I'm Mark Frauenfelder, Editor-in-Chief of Cool Tools, a website of tool recommendations written by our readers. You can find us at cool-tools.org. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Kelly, founder of Cool Tools. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, it's great to be here.
In each episode of the Cool Tools Show, Kevin and I talk to a guest about some of his or her favorite uncommon and uncommonly good tools they think others should know about. Our guest this week is Nick Schulz. Nick wears many hats. He's contributed illustrations to magazines including Wired, Fortune, and Popular Science. He was actually the first illustrator for Make Magazine, which was the magazine that I edited. Nick is also a furniture maker, automotive illustrator, and an overlander. I'm not sure what that means. We'll ask him. He lives and works on Orcas Island in Washington State. Hey, Nick, how you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so great to have you join us talking about your favorite cool tools.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Thanks.
Nick, I am a huge fan of your illustrations. I got to know them in Wired. So when I started working at Make Magazine, had you come over, and you're an interesting person with interesting tools. So let's just jump right into it and tell us about your first tool called an episometer.
Yeah, this is a map measuring. It's a device that measures distances on paper maps. And it's just basically a little wheel that, you travel along the map, and then there's a dial indicator, and it measures off the inches, and so then you can convert, to miles based on the scale of the map. And I'm just a big fan of cartography and paper maps, and for overlanding, which is vehicle-based adventure travel and camping. When you get out into the backcountry, Google Maps doesn't always know what's a road and what's not a road. And so for planning purposes, you might not have a GPS or an internet connection. So for planning purposes, it's really nice to just have like this tool for measuring distance on paper maps.
And so it must, in some ways, you must be able to tell what the scale of the map is. There must be some import to adjust the relative scale of maps because they come in so many different scales.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so how do you do that? Turn a little dial?
Well, so the map wheel will measure in inches or centimeters, and then you just use the scale on the map to convert. So, if you measure 5 inches on the map, and 1 inch is 15 miles or whatever, then 5 times 15.
Oh, I see. So it's actually the dial on the side of it is actually not reading out the virtual distances. It's just giving you the actual distance on the paper of the map.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
When you see somebody like walking along the street with one of those things that looks kind of like a unicycle, this is just like a scaled down version of it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah. And how much satisfying little tool.
It has that nice kind of retro look, like you're a Victorian era explorer or something.
Totally.
Yeah, it has a steampunk kind of aspect to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so do they make new ones?
Yeah, so the one I have is a vintage Swiss one, and the company Alvin that makes a lot of sort of drafting products and stuff, they make a new one that's I think like $35, something like that. Okay. And it still has a German movement and everything. But you can get vintage ones on eBay for, between $25 to $50.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, I'm sure it's they're probably just little watch gears inside. It's about the size of a watch.
Yeah, totally. It's probably some kind of like a watch type movement inside there, and it's very satisfying to use.
Yeah, it looks great, and it pairs nicely with your second tool, I think.
Yeah, the second tool is a series of road and recreation atlases by a company called Benchmark Maps, and they make an atlas, and each atlas covers one state. And so you really get a lot of nice detail in terms of the cartography, and they're so clear and easy to read. They're really nice.
I think I have their name right, but made not atlas size maps, but they were made like whole wall maps. I think they were called Raven maps. They did state maps, and they also had a kind of a clarity to them, but they were done at a very large scale. They would be 2 or 3 feet, 2 feet by 3 feet, and that kind of clarity was what really struck me. And they were beautiful as art pieces as well. And I was just wondering if they were all similar in the look to these benchmark ones, which I haven't seen before.
Yeah, cartography is a real skill. I mean, you can look at one paper map and it's almost like a fog of information. Like you can't pick out anything. But with these maps, it's just like they're so clear, and it's a real skill to be able to create maps like that, I feel like. And the great thing I love about these maps for like off-roading and overlanding is you can really tell clearly like which road is a dirt road or a paved road or a 4x4 road, and then which sort of road is like maybe a trail that's not even really sort of navigable. So they help a lot. On some trips I ordered USGS maps, and even those were like pretty hard to read. I mean, those are sort of more like topo oriented, but for like if you're in a car or a truck or a motorcycle and you're trying to sort of navigate, I found these work the best.
Do you use a magnifying glass with these?
No, you don't have to. You can just look at the page, and it's pretty clear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They look pretty detailed. Maybe for me, I need a magnifying glass.
Right.
And I'm imagining, because if each one's by state, do the scales on these vary from one state to another?
You know, that I don't know. I think they probably use the same scale just so there's sort of consistency between the maps, but I'm not 100% sure.
So is the scale like your typical USGS quad map, or is it less than that?
Each spread of a sort of the detail section of these atlases is 19 inches by 13.5, and that shows an area about 60 by 50 miles.
Oh, okay.
So
that's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty good size.
Okay.
You know, that's the amazing thing about these is like that's like the most detail that I've seen in sort of, you know, like a state map. So you can just really get right down to like the individual trails and roads and things.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they do them for all 50 states?
You know, I think they just have maps that focus on the West right now.
Okay.
They're really good for, you know, like traveling around a national forest or a national park. You know, they're fine for, you know, like traveling around more populated areas, but like they really shine in the sort of like remote kind of backcountry areas. So maybe that's why they've kind of focused on the Western states for right now.
That looks cool. And they're about $25. And I noticed that you can also buy a California road map, which is just kind of one big map. And on one side is the entire state of California, and then it has details. But it's $6. It folds out to 27 inches by 36 inches. And it looks great. I mean, this is such a nice thing to get a more bird's eye view as opposed to using Google Maps or Apple Maps.
Mm-hmm. So just, you know, later on at your own leisure, do check out Raven state maps.
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah.
They're more of again, they're for the wall rather than actually, they're not as useful in terms of navigating around in your car or motorcycle, but they are visually very, very striking in terms of displaying, and they're done by state. So they have a similar color scheme too, which is interesting.
So tell us about your next tool.
All right.
A driver is probably related to your kind of new vocation.
Yeah. The one I had was an R82005K cordless 3/8-inch 12-volt drill driver, and it kind of seems like a kind of like mundane tool, like everybody has a drill driver, but it's really one of my favorites because it's so well balanced and so compact and so powerful. It's almost like, how did they manage to balance all of these kind of, you know, every design brief has like competing, you know, interests. And I feel like they just made a really great all-around tool. It's like so satisfying to hold and so well balanced. And when you kind of click the torque on the, you know, how you can limit the torque that the drill puts out for drilling screws and stuff. Turning that ring just produces this series of really satisfying clicks. It just feels like a really well dialed machine. And yeah, I love it.
And there are a lot of drivers out there. One is 12 volts is on the low side these days.
Yeah.
And I guess the compromise there is that it would weigh less. It's not like a 20 volt or even 60 volts. So is that why this tool is better? Is because it's smaller than, say, most ordinary drivers?
Yeah, it's really compact, and it still produces like 400 inch-pounds of torque, which I found is like quite good for, you know, drilling in even like a 3-inch wood screw or something. Yeah, it's and then the batteries charge up like in half an hour, which I don't know, found impressive. But like, you know, you can just like have one dead battery, put it in the charger, and then like half an hour later, it's like, okay, ready to go again, you know. And then you just stick it comes with 2 batteries, so you just stick the good battery in and keep going, you know.
Oh, that's nice. So it comes with 2 batteries. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just so well balanced. It's just like almost like feels like I don't know. There's something really inspiring and confidence inspiring, I guess, about
and
how
a
well
lot
it
of
feels in your hand.
the battery, a lot of the drivers say have their battery kind of almost horizontal to form a little base to make it stable. This one has kind of a very narrow, the battery's in the handle and it's narrow at the base. Is it stable enough just sitting on the table like that?
Yeah, it will stand on end, but I usually just like lay it on the table and, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the strength of the tool is like sort of in the way it balances all of these parameters. Like it's small, yet it still has enough power, and it's like compact, but it's still, you know, it's like easy to use, and it's not too heavy, and you know, yeah.
And one last question on that, just another advantage of a typical, you know, DeWalt or Robies or all these others is that you can use batteries for different tools. Use the same battery system. Are there other tools that use the same battery?
You know, I don't know. I've only bought this particular drill driver, so I don't know if it, you know, if the battery works in other RIDGID tools or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So you have a fourth one that you want to tell us about, another hand tool, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, this thing's really great. So this is it's called the Titan 11477 ratcheting wire terminal crimper. I do a lot of like electrical projects, like either on my truck, installing additional lights, or, you know, just whatever kind of electrical project, or on the boat, you know, installing like a VHF radio or whatever. And for crimping the terminals onto the wires, this is a really great tool because it's got this ratcheting mechanism so that you can put the terminal in the jaws of the tool and just ratchet it one click, and it'll hold the terminal without compressing it. And then you can put the wire end in there and then ratchet through to crimp it. And because it's this ratcheting mechanism, it applies the exact correct amount of force like every time in a really consistent way. And then it also produces a double crimp, so it crimps the terminal in 2 places, so it's super solid. And they even make one that has interchangeable jaws, so that if you want to crimp different types of terminals, like, you know, like a flag terminal where like the wire and then the kind of connector of the terminal are sort of at 90 degrees to one another, you could insert the jaws for that particular terminal and then use it for that. So, and it's just got this really satisfying feeling, like when you crimp it and it ratchets, it's like, you know, you're doing it exactly right when I used other crimpers, I'd always sort of like over squeeze it because like I wasn't sure. I was like, more is better, and just kind of really squeeze it down. But that more isn't always better in that case,
And to explain what these terminals are, it's like if you have wiring this for power rather than just for a signal. If you have wiring for power, then the way that you connect them is rather than solder them, they'll use a connector that either slips on it or it's screwed on. It's a way of terminating the power wire or connecting it to another wire in a kind of safe, consistent way. And that's what the little thing is that you're crimping onto the end of the wire.
Yeah, exactly. And this would be used in sort of like 12-volt applications. Like I don't think this is the type of thing that you do use in like 110 kind of things around the house, but more like car boat projects where it's like 12 volt. And then you're attaching these terminals to the end of the wire where there are many types of terminals where you either end up with like a ring that you can screw down to like a board or something, or like a spade terminal where you can slide it in, or maybe a connector, if you want to connect and unconnect the wires from each other, then you have one end has kind of like a little shovel spade and the other one has a kind of a female receptacle, and then you can connect and disconnect them.
Right.
So it's super useful. All kinds of stuff like that.
That's great. To Titan. Yeah. So anyway, this is called the Titan Ratcheting Wire Terminal Crimper.
Yeah, and the ratcheting is what makes it such a satisfying tool to use, because you're getting an exact crimp every time, whereas if you use one that doesn't ratchet, you never know if you're adding the right amount of pressure or not.
Right, and it looks like it's about $20, which is pretty reasonable for a hand tool that will probably outlive you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, $20 for the one with the fixed jaws, and then I think they're $85 if you get the one where it has like 6 different types of jaws that go in there.
Okay.
So Nick, we have a couple of minutes left, and I just wanted to have you tell us a little bit about furniture making. I saw some of your pieces in a email newsletter you sent out, and really cool stuff. I didn't even know that you made furniture. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I've been an illustrator for the last 17, 18 years, but I actually have an industrial design degree. So recently I thought it would be interesting and satisfying to get back to my industrial design roots and build furniture. So so I designed this sofa set. It was like my first furniture project, and it's called the Morningside sofa set. And I tried to make a sofa set that was like the most versatile sort of piece of furniture that I could come up with. And so this sofa set has fold backrests that fold down, and the cushions on like the backrest cushions are kind of loose, so you can take them off. And by virtue of having these folding backrests, the pieces can be configured, as a sofa, or you push the two together and fold all the backrests down except for 2, which you leave horizontal, and then you have a queen bed with nightstands. Or you can, push them against each other and leave one side of the backrests up and fold the other ones down, and then you have a lounger. So it's like this, it's just like this really versatile, and it's on casters, and you can move it around easily. And for us, it just seemed like the most versatile piece of furniture that we could have.
So something you built for yourself first in your own home, and then you're making other copies?
Yeah, so I built a prototype for us, and so now I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, what's the best way to reproduce this? Do I make it in my shop, or do I, license the design to my manufacturer? I'm kind of.
Do you have a CNC router?
No, I don't. But all these parts are CNC cut. But I farmed out the CNC cutting.
Maybe you sell plans.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's pretty complicated. Like the hinge mechanism, it's like, it's just like this kind of, handle that you click up, and then it locks in place, and yeah, it was really satisfying to build and to, you know, spec all the
Right.
parts and make sure everything felt right. And yeah.
One of the things that my Chris Anderson, who followed me at Wired, got into drones, was that they started selling, I think, plans, and then they sold kits. But they found out that selling the kits, what happened was it just kind of drove the appetite for completed whole the non-kit versions. It's like people would do it once and
how
they
funny.
realized the value of having someone put it together for them.
Right. Oh, that's really funny.
And I think the same thing with plans is people, start with the plans and they realize,
Yeah.
it's actually worth buying it already done.
Right. That's
Yeah.
funny.
By someone
Yeah.
who has had experience making dozens, if not hundreds of them.
Yes.
Right.
So they don't screw it up. Yeah.
Right,
So,
right.
Nick, unfortunately, we're out of time, but
Yeah.
we'll have links to your work so people can check out your Morningside sofa set, as well as we didn't get a chance to talk about your line of automotive T-shirts. You do really cool car illustrations, and so we'll have a link to that too, and people can check that out. But Nick, this has been so much fun having you. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure.